Hello folks, and welcome back to your least favorite EV conversion channel, and welcome back to the barn, because I have a barn now. It's not a workshop, it's not an electronic shop, it's a barn. So I never thought I'd have a barn, so I have a barn. Now, I've also got a headache, and I figured best medicine for that is to go talk to you guys and share the pain. Speaking of pain, for the last few days now, I've been back at my favorite pain, which is Tesla Model 3 hacking. Not trees that grow out of the ground, but 3, the number that comes after 2. So, what have I been doing? Well, I have finally got my hands on a non-functioning PCS that I can test and debug here on the bench. For those of you that do not know, the PCS stands for the Power Conversion System, and it is the Tesla Model 3 version of their kind of combined 10 kilowatt AC charger and DC to DC converter. So again, as some of you may know, I've been using one of those quite successfully as the charger and the DC-DC in the Grey Goose for well over a year without any problems. And I developed this little control board to let folks use them, and sold quite a few of those again over the past year or so. Sadly, right when I've been involved in the whole house move and all of that craziness going on, people had reported problems. Certain things weren't functioning with their PCSs. The controller was doing X, Y, and Z when it shouldn't have been. And I just, unfortunately, not only did I not have the time to look at it, but I didn't have a place that I could set something up and try and duplicate the problems and then find the solutions to them. So finally, as I say, that's what I've been doing here now the last couple of days. I took a break from the VCU stuff, and we've been on PCS. So where things stand now, and I'll show you all this on the bench and on the computer here, is that we had a bunch of problems in the software that runs on the PCS controller. Now, I was able to solve some of those with my limited programming skills, and we got the DC to DC converter part of the PCS starting up and charging our 12 volt battery. Could not get the AC charging section working, and the way the software for the STM32 was written, and coupling that with my lack of skills, it just kind of wasn't really easy for me to make changes in there so I could try different things. So I've hacked up a little board here with an Arduino DUI, and that kind of lets me change things in a much more kind of a friendlier way and quicker way for me when I'm trying to develop things. And then when we get all of that worked out, we can translate back to the STM32. So that's what I've been doing here, and we've got ourselves to a point now that I kind of figured, okay, I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to make a video. I'm going to talk to you folks about this because, number one, it'll stop me doing things, and it'll force me to think about it as I explain what's going on. So the PCS is basically telling me now, no matter what condition that I try to set it to, and I'm talking about the charging section, not the DC-DC, but the charging section now, will perfectly happily sit idling, but anytime that I apply AC grid power to it, as opposed to doing what it should do, which is go into charging mode and start going through its wake up sequencing, it basically faults out and tells me in the fault matrix in CAN message 3A4. Yeah, see, I know all the CAN messages now because I've been looking at this stuff continuously and dreaming about it. 3A4, bit 73. It tells me that, or not bit 73, alert 73. It tells me, what's it tell me? Unexpected AC input voltage. So that's the kind of thing that you would expect if you applied AC before setting it into a kind of a charge mode. But now with this version here, which is an EU variant, but I don't actually believe that makes any difference. I think this is all the usual Tesla stuff. It's down to the software that's on the microcontrollers in there. So right now, anytime I apply AC, Elon goes, no, I cannot handle this. Unexpected AC voltage. What are you doing, Damien? No, don't do it. So then I can reset him, can put him into what I believe to be charge mode, and then Elon will just sit there scrolling Twitter. I go, like, damn bots. Scroll, like, comment, like, damn bots. Whereas what he should be doing is he should give me some time, and then he should set another alert saying AC input rationality, because I'm telling him to go into charging mode and I'm not giving him AC within a particular time slot. And then he's just saying no, but no, he doesn't do that now, which is kind of weird. So that tells me that somewhere, somehow, either I'm missing a CAN message that this new firmware wants to see, that he's expecting for me to put him into charge mode, and I'm not sending that, hence he sits here scrolling Twitter, rather than complaining to me about the lack of AC input. The other thing is that I have all the necessary messages, but there's a change in the formatting, or there's some kind of a mechanism in there that he wants to see a certain sequence happen in those messages that he didn't care about previously. And again, that has him sitting here scrolling Twitter instead of complaining to me that I'm not supplying him with AC input. So that's really boring. So I really hope that none of you are still watching, because if you thought that part was boring, wait till you see this part on the bench. Oh, because I don't have a bench battery pack, we are connected to the Landyacht's CHAdeMO port using the patented Johannes method of V2L. And we have our high voltage, comes in through these cables here, goes through our electric cooker element, which we can bypass with a DC rated circuit breaker. HV comes up here then and goes into our PCS here. There's our HV input. 12 volt input is by this high spec method here of connecting our 12 volt battery. And finally, over here then, we have our AC input to the PCS. So those are where our power connections to the PCS go. And obviously we have our data connector here. And we have my butchered controller here. So this is my V3 PCS controller, which normally has an STM32 on there. I've taken that off and simply hardwired in just a Arduino DOE development board there. And that has the dual advantage of somewhat compensating for my crappy programming skills, and also lets me kind of pick up on the development side of things where I left off previously before shifting over to the STM32. So that's the setup that we have here at the minute. I've also got an EVTV DUI here for logging the IPC can, which is our little wires here. That lets us log the communications between our controller and our PCS. So I've also got down here what I had been playing with of the I have a charging port here, but don't really need that at the minute, because we can just apply AC mains just by plugging in a normal outlet. So that's where things are with our PCS. We can bring up the DC-DC converter. We cannot bring up the charger because Elon is angry with me. Elon, damn you. Okay, so here we are with good old SavvyCAN on our computer here on the bench. I have another computer connected to our controller, so we should be able to toggle our PCS and enable on, and you will see we get lots of fun-packed CAN messages. And we're fortunate enough to have it's a somewhat dated DBC, which is where I suspect some of my problems are originating from, but it does decode quite a lot of nice information here for us. Now, probably the most useful of all of these messages when we're debugging things is 3A4, which is the alert matrix. And at the minute, it's basically giving me quite a few errors here. And one of the reasons it's doing that is that I have, when I sat down to record this, I forgot to turn the HV on. So for example here, if we look at some of our bits that are set, DC-DC HV rationality is set to 1. So I'm being irrational in terms of the DC to DC converter settings. There should also be in there another one set for charger HV rationality, I think. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, charger. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, so charger HV rationality. Okay, so I'm going to go turn on the HV, and why don't I leave you guys here keeping an eye on things for me. And what you should hopefully see is when I turn the HV on, we should clear some of these bits. Stand by. Alright, so now we have HV on. Let's see, yeah, there's our alert matrix, is just this 01 that you see here, that's just the multiplexer. It's a 2-page message, so that's all happy. So if we clear frames back there now again, we can now pull up our message for the DC-DC converter, if I can find it. VC front, CP status, HVP, BMS, PCS charge status we'll be looking at in a minute. Here we are, PCS DC, whoa, birds in the barn. So our PCS DC-DC is in standby. If I toggle DC-DC on, there we go. Our DC-DC comes up, and we can see we're putting about 7 amps into our 12-volt battery here. I've just got a 14-volt setting on this, and it says DC-DC substate 12-volt support active. So obviously we're not doing pre-charge, we don't need that, and we can pump out 220 amps out of our little Elon here. So it is quite a powerful DC to DC converter. Now, Where we come unstuck presently, as I say, is when we try to charge. Now message 204 is our charging message, and for some reason it's actually gone into fault state already, which I don't think it should have done, but okay. So let's see what annoyed Elon. As I said, in 3A4 we have our alert matrix that I kind of showed you there. But then what we should do is that should generate 424, which is the alert log, and that'll tell us why we screwed up. And looks like down here, so DC enable the asserted error. So I've got my timing wrong in how I'm enabling the DC to DC converter, because there's both a hardware enable and a CAN enable, so it looks like I have a little bit of a timing problem there with that. Now if I go up here to, we haven't generated 73. Have we generated 73? Yes, we have. So did I stupidly have the AC turned on or something like that? No, I don't think I did. Okay, let's do a restart and clear that error there and see if we can get this to behave for you here, so at least generate the problems. If we disable PCS, clear frames again, should be able to enable PCS and go to our charge status. There we go, charge status idle. So this is where we would be when we don't want to charge, or we're not asking the little Elon brain in there to initiate charging. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to initiate charging mode, or so I think I am. So right now I believe that I have set the conditions for charging mode. Now if that were true, we would by now have seen charge state come out of idle and go through a few setups where it'll be checking the grid configuration, and it would then go into a waiting for grid voltage or something like that mode here, and would then give me a little bit more time, and if I didn't apply AC it would basically fault out. So I'm going to go ahead now and turn on AC, and we'll show you what happens in this message. Okay, so that's AC on. We go to config single phase, and we just go straight over to PCS charging state faulted. So that is essentially where we are right now with this particular model PCS. Off. And the interesting thing is that if we now suspend capture, and if we were to look at our alert log down here, it should be giving me this one 73. Is it giving me 73? Yes, it should be giving me 73, which is unexpected AC input voltage between L1 and N. I have our charge port type set to Euro IEC, which seems to be, I guess, what it would be. But these are the conditions for alert 73, and this is what's causing us. This is one reason, I think, anyway, that's causing us to not charge properly. So, folks, there it is. PCS blues at the minute. So as you can see there, that's about as far as I've been getting for about the last day and a half here. Just trying different combinations of messages and so forth. The kind of frustrating thing is that I don't seem to be seeing anything alerting me in the alert log prior to throwing on the AC power over there. And then we just get this unexpected AC input on there. And yes, I've tried different combinations of the 3 phases, inputs and all that kind of thing. Doesn't make any difference. Elon is scrolling away and then he sees AC voltage and says, what are you doing? You didn't tell me you wanted to charge. I'm not going to charge. Boo-hoo. So that's where we're at. I'll keep working on this thing. And while I'm doing that, don't forget to check out those links in the description. The software I'm running here for the PCS, as terrible as it may be, is indeed open source. But I'll put a link to the GitHub repo in there for you, so you can say ha ha when you look at it. Also, the links in the description to Open Inverter Forum and the usual suspects, including the dreaded Patreon and PayPal, where you should not be supporting me, because if you do, then I'll just buy more Tesla parts and other parts and hack them and make more stupid videos like this. And let's face it, nobody wants that. So, until then, I can't think of something to say now because my head's full of stupid CAN messages. Happy PCS CAN decoding.